Did you know that Rome had over 70 emperors? That's more than the number of people in your high school graduating class. And let's just say, not all of them left Rome better than they found it. In fact, a few of them almost burned the whole place down. Literally. Now, picking the worst Roman emperor is a pretty tough job. So how do we figure out who deserves the title? We're talking about horrible policies, brutal executions, and, yeah, sleeping with family members. But let me try. It is worth mentioning the reigns of Commodus, Galba, and Honorius. They are infamous for their tyranny and disastrous impact on Rome. Commodus saw himself as a living god and plunged Rome into chaos with his erratic behavior, cruelty, and obsession with gladiatorial combat, ultimately leading to his assassination and a power vacuum. Galba, ruling for only 6 months, was known for his brutal purges and financial mismanagement, alienating both the military and the Senate, resulting in his violent death. Honorius was a weak emperor under whose reign Rome was sacked by the Visigoths in 410 AD, marking the empire's irreversible decline. Their actions left Rome unstable and vulnerable. But let's move on to the worst ones. First on my list is Vitellius. While certainly not as famous to people nowadays, Vitellius was reportedly just as sadistic and wicked as Caligula and Nero. Moreover, he was one of the emperors who reigned during the Year of the Four Emperors in 69 AD, all of which are generally considered poor emperors. This guy treated being emperor like an all-you-can-eat buffet. He was so obsessed with food it was said he ate 4 huge meals a day, and each one was more extravagant than the last. It is darkly ironic that he apparently forced his mother to starve herself until she died, in order to fulfill some prophecy that he would rule longer if his mother died first. But that's not all. Vitellius didn't just eat Rome's food supply. He also managed to turn the entire military against him by just doing nothing. Moreover, he took great pleasure in torturing and executing people, particularly those of high rank, although he is also reported to have indiscriminately killed common people as well. He also went about punishing all those who wronged him before he took charge of the empire in grossly elaborate ways. The man lasted less than a year before getting, let's say, evicted from power. And by evicted, I mean dragged through the streets and executed. Next is Nero. The guy who was so bad, people actually believed he started the Great Fire of Rome. And to be honest, that's not even the worst thing he did. Actually, he began his reign rather well, but devolved into a paranoid hysteria, compounded by a complete lack of interest in the affairs of the state. He was born in Anzio on the 15th of December 37 AD, and was descended from a noble family dating back from the Roman Republic. He came to the throne in suspicious circumstances, as his uncle and predecessor, the Emperor Claudius, was apparently murdered by Nero's mother, the Empress, Agrippina the Younger. Before Nero murdered his mother, she acted as an advisor and confidant for her son, who was only 17 or 18 when he took the throne. Alas, things fell apart, as Nero became increasingly suspicious of his mother and eventually killed her in 59 AD after he had already poisoned his stepbrother, Britannicus. He aimed to kill her via a collapsible boat, but she survived the attempt, only to be killed by one of Nero's freedmen when she swam to shore. After the murder of his mother, Nero initially left much of the administration of the state to his Praetorian prefect Burrus and advisor Seneca. In 62 AD, Burrus died, perhaps of poison. It was not long before Nero exiled Seneca and set off on a slew of executions of prominent senators, many of whom he saw as opponents. He is also said to have killed 2 of his wives, one by execution and the other by murder in the palace, apparently kicking her to death whilst pregnant with his child. Yet the anecdote with which Nero is perhaps best remembered is when he apparently sat watching as Rome burned, playing his fiddle when a conflagration started somewhere near the Circus Maximus in 64 AD. Whilst this scene was likely a complete fabrication, it reflected the underlying perception of Nero as a heartless ruler, obsessed with himself and his power, observing the burning city as though it was his playset. Moreover, these claims of emperor-instigated arson were made because Nero commissioned the construction of an ornate golden palace for himself in the aftermath of the fire, and an elaborate reimagining of the capital city in marble, after much of it had been destroyed. Yet these initiatives bankrupted the Roman Empire quickly. Nero's reign ended when his own guards were like, "Nope, We're done, and he was forced to take his own life in 68 AD. And finally, I've saved the weirdest for last. Caligula. Where do we even begin? This guy was next-level crazy. We're talking about the emperor who tried to make his horse a senator. Out of all the Roman emperors, Caligula probably stands out as the most infamous, due not only to the bizarre anecdotes about his behavior, but also because of the string of assassinations and executions he ordered. According to most modern and ancient accounts, he seems to have actually been insane. Born on August 12th AD as Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, Caligula, meaning little boots, was the son of the famous Roman general Germanicus and Agrippina the Elder, who was the granddaughter of the first Roman emperor Augustus. Whilst he apparently ruled well for the first 6 months of his reign, the sources suggest he subsequently fell into a permanent hysteria thereafter, characterized by depravity, debauchery, and the capricious killing of various aristocrats who surrounded him. It is suggested that this abrupt change in behavior was brought about after Caligula believed somebody had tried to poison him in October 37 AD. Although Caligula became seriously ill from consuming an apparently tainted substance, he recovered, but according to these same accounts, he was not the same ruler as before. Instead, he became suspicious of those closest to him, ordering the execution and exile of many of his relatives. This included his cousin and adopted son Tiberius Gemellus, his father-in-law Marcus Junius Silanus, and brother-in-law Marcus Lepidus, all of whom were executed. He also exiled 2 of his sisters after scandals and apparent conspiracies against him. Besides this seemingly insatiable desire to execute those around him, he was also infamous for having an insatiable appetite for sexual escapades. Indeed, it is reported that he effectively made the palace a brothel, replete with depraved orgies, whilst he regularly committed incest with his sisters. Outside of such domestic scandals, Caligula is also famous for some of the erratic behavior he exhibited as emperor. On one occasion, the historian Suetonius claimed that Caligula marched a Roman army of soldiers through Gaul to the British Channel, only to tell them to pick up seashells and return back to their camp. In a perhaps more famous example, or piece of trivia often referenced, Caligula reportedly made his horse Incitatus a senator, appointing a priest to serve him. To further aggravate the senatorial class, he also donned himself in the appearance of various gods and would present himself as a god to the public. For such blasphemies and depravity, Caligula was assassinated by one of his Praetorian guards in early 41 AD. To recap, Vitellius ate his way through Rome's wealth, Nero tried to set the stage on fire, literally, and Caligula, well, he just took crazy to a whole new level. Each of them left a mark on Rome, just not the good kind. Who do you think was the worst Roman emperor? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And while Rome had its fair share of crazy emperors, they weren't the only ancient civilization with a wild history. Did you know Rome eventually conquered Egypt? If you want to explore the incredible rise of ancient Egypt, where Rome's influence would eventually land, check out my video, Ancient Egypt in 10 Minutes, All You Need to Know. Thanks for watching.